B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
This week we're heading to the East Coast. You heard his album on Cold Chillin Records back in the day. Brother of the legendary diabolical Biz Markie. B-boys and B-girls, welcome Diamond Shell. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see you guys, man. Peace to all the hip hop, man. It's incredible just being here.
So what are some of your first memories of hearing hip hop?
Wow. First memory. 70. I can recall this good because Biz won't let me forget it. He never let me forget it. 1978, we got the L Brothers cassette tape from a guy in the neighborhood. My brother nowadays, got it from him. And that was our first run-in with New York City hip hop. But my oldest brother, he's into it too. So he bought us Sugar Hill Gang. So our first really run-in was, Super Rhymes, Enjoy Records, like that. And then later on, I remember when Biz decided he was going to get into it. Shit, I can see it clear. We were listening to L Brothers, and Busy B Starski came on. And Biz said, I'm going to be Busy B Markie. I looked at him confused, but, I'm the younger dude. Right. So I'm on for the ride. I'm good. If that's what we're going to do, let's do it. And that's how it started.
So when did you first start writing, thinking maybe I can do this too?
I wrote before Biz did. Well, when we got this tape, we would sit down and then, it was a habit. We got more tapes. We got Grandmaster Caz. We got Cold Crush 4. We got Dr. Rock, Force MD, some Pebbly Pooh stuff. And me and Biz, we would sit down and we would write what we heard. I guess you would call it biting back then, your bite or whatever. But we would sit down, we would write it, and, we'd kick it back and forth to each other until one day I said, I'm writing my own stuff. And, B was like, no, let me see. And he looked at it and he liked it. And I was an MC and a DJ, really, before he was, because he was a beatbox, really.
Right.
Right.
One of the best beatboxers of all time.
I mean, man, the craziest thing I ever seen, and I don't know who. I was a young kid, and I don't remember anybody being there. Biz used to battle a kid named Eminem all the time, and I can't find this guy. But Biz is battling this guy, and to beat him, he had to stand on his head and do the beatbox. It was crazy. And nobody, that's a story that I don't really tell too often, but it's something that happened. It should. I wish I had documentary of it, but.
So what was it like when you see your brother Biz, when he first, hooks up with the Juice Crew, going off, he gets a success? What was it like seeing him go up to that level?
Amazing. It was something he deserved and he worked for. When we were kids, the Vape is a true story. We ran with Juice Crew guys, we ran on Noble Street, and we would be in a garage. I won't call names, but we're in a garage, and I could see them, standing there, and they're passing a mic. It's like one DJ and like 10 MCs in there. So he's egging the guy, yo, can I be next? And the guy's like, yo, when I get it, I'm going to pass it to you. Then the dude would get it, and he'd kick his rhyme, and I'm seeing him with his hand out, and then he passed the mic right around him. And, I'm a little kid, so it hurt my feelings. Yeah. I wanted to, and Biz was like, don't worry, we'll get our moment. Nah, let's go in there and take it. But it's only two of us. We were young boys, man. I was maybe 11, 12, and he was 13.
So going off, blows up. It's got multiple, Make the Music with Your Mouth Biz is, probably my favorite Biz song. So he starts getting success. At what point did you then get to deal with Cold Chillin to start working on your own project?
Oh man, that took a long time. Um, we, I was a writer. Uh, I I wrote a lot for Biz. I didn't write as much as King did, and but me and Biz, we shared a room. My bed pulled out from under his bed.
Hmm.
So whenever the pins came out and we wrote, I, I would say, "Yo, B, what do you think of this?" And he'd look at it. And I got a piece of paper. I wish I could pull it out. He came home one day and said, "Yo, we're gonna write rhymes." I said, "All right." So he gets his book out, I get my book out, and we write and write and write. And I wrote 2 pages of rhyme. And I showed him, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna add mines to yours." Okay, cool. He takes my paper and he writes one sentence and he called it done. He was like, "Now I'm done." you know, he wasn't a writer. He was an entertainer, a presence on stage. One of the greatest. If you ever saw a Biz Markie show, you
I
wouldn't
have.
forget it.
I was lucky enough to see him live in Milwaukee in the mid '90s.
Oh wow. Okay, so yeah, then you would know.
Yeah,
The minute he steps on stage, energy.
he seems like such a larger than life, presence. What the
He,
public saw was that really his personality, that fun loving all the time.
yeah, he was he was who he was. And it was amazing to see, well, it was amazing to see the growth. And I didn't even know what I was watching until it was well into its season. And now that he's gone, people stop me and say, "Your brother's a legend and he's an icon." And I'm amazed. I am. You know, I'm the luckiest kid on the whole block, man.
91 finally, Cold Chillin puts out your first album. I dug up in my closet. I still got the tape I bought back in the day.
Big up to that right there, son.
I always wanted to know this. I think that's a dope concept for an album cover, sweeping the other, people's records up. Whose idea was it for that album cover?
Oh man, you know what? That was 100% my idea. We were samplers, so when we started to make these albums, we would the dusty fingers was real. We would be digging in the crates and pulling samples out. So I'm sitting around with one of my boys, this cat named Jigga G. He's like my brother now. And I said, "Yo, when we do the album cover," he's actually on the cover with me. I said, "When we do this cover, I want to recycle the samples. Like we can, I don't know, like we're scooping up garbage and just making it new again." And he thought it was a good idea. So I told Biz, and he said, "It won't work." He shot down everything I ever thought. I could have told him, "Yo, I think we should visit Jesus." And he'd be like, "No." But uh, I put the idea to him. He told me it wouldn't work, but he put it, I would imagine he put it to Tyrone Fly Tie, Lenny and the guys at Cold Chillin, and it came to be. And George Dubois and Dorian, a friend of mine. It was, we shot that at, it had to be 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was like 3, 4, 5 degrees below zero. And we shot that. Dorian set it up and we shot it. I mean, I didn't have the idea of the picture. That was Dorian. She styled it. But the whole idea to recycle the samples were mine, and the Carhartt gear just worked because that's what we were wearing at the time.
So, what are some of your memories about recording that album? Putting that together. Of course, the single was "Oh What a Night," with Biz singing like
Yeah,
only he can.
you're right. First of all, I recorded it in Power Play Studios at the time. That was hip hop heaven for anybody recording. KRS-One, Rakim, Eric Sermon came through. Eric was my boy. We were in school together. Eric came through. A lot of cats. I mean, that was a place to be in New York City in those eras of hip hop. We One I remember meeting Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs. He was recording that single, Gotta Have It. And if you walk into Power Play, there's a long bench. It kind of goes like a stadium bench, and all the people, like, it was like a hierarchy. If you were more important, you sat at the front, and as you got to the back, the new guys are waiting to record. And I didn't have to sit back there because we were recording for Cold Chillin, but I sat on the end of the bench anyway.
Mhm.
So I sit on the end of the bench one day and I meet, who else? Ed O.G. And he was recording Gotta Have It. And then, we hear the single and it's dope. It's dope. Big up to Ed O.G.
No doubt. He doesn't get mentioned enough. I mean,
No
he
doubt.
made he made some great
No doubt.
records.
Yeah, we tend to forget a lot of cats, man. I could go down the list. I won't, but we tend to forget a lot of dudes who had some great records. So, we have to remember hip hop. We have to create. If we don't create and share, then we can't inspire anyone. And if we don't create, share, inspire, we don't have the art. That's what art is.
Why did we never get a second Diamond Shell record?
Uh, you know what? I think you'd have to ask Tyrone, Fly Ty. You know what? One day, if we ever do this again, you call me, we'll ring him in.
All right.
Ty's a good dude. Um, I'm not sure. We started recording. Actually, I started recording the second album on my own and I completed it, but it was without the big engine of Cold Chillin and no Power Play Studios and no Biz Ideas. When the Oh What a Night single came to be, was interesting because I remember walking into Power Play, talking to Cool V, and Pebbly Pooh was there. And it was Pebbly who said, if Biz is going to sing on it, because in my mind, I'm thinking Pebbly is going to rap on this one because we signed a contract where you didn't get paid until you started recording, and you didn't get all of the money until you finished recording. So Pebbly's in there to record, and I'm just catching up to B to see what we're doing. And Pebbly says, well, if Biz is going to sing, maybe Shell should do the hook, or should do the rhyme. And I said, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm not sure if that's the way I saw it. I think Cool V told me he had me in mind 100% from beginning to end. But I remember Pebbly saying Shell should do it. And that was the day I started recording. And then the album went from there. Basically, me and Cool V and Biz didn't really come. Biz is not a, people will say Biz is a studio rat. Nah, he's an entertainer. He did not come into the studio. When we were recording Oh What a Night, that whole album, Biz might have came in 3 times, 3 or 4 times, just to check on me, make sure
Right.
everybody was right. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to ask everyone is, do you have one or two crazy show memories? Something crazy that happened at a show?
Oh man, so many, man. Stop. The Heavy D show. Head was headlining. Biz is doing the show, and I'm like, here's something that did happen. Right now, we're at the Apollo, and Biz is doing Just a Friend. And before I go, Heavy D, rest in peace.
Absolutely.
So Biz doing the Apollo, he calls me, he says, "Yo, Shell, come to the show." All right, I'm coming. Now, I think this is on YouTube even. But I said, okay. I get to the show and the Apollo's packed, solid. You can't even see the door. But Biz is, like you say, he's bigger than life. He's head and shoulders above everybody. So I'm, yo, B, and I can't reach him. So he says, go around the back. All right. I go around the back. The security guard's waiting for me. And the line around the back is even more packed than the one up front. So I yell to the security guard, hey, yo, you know, I'm trying to get in. Security guard says, who are you? I'm Biz's brother. He said, all right, made a way for me. I'm skating through the line. So as I'm skating through the line, people are looking at me like Biz's brother. Fuck out. I'm his uncle. I'm his mom. I'm his dad. Everybody was, so we get to the front and the security guard opens the door for me and he says, Joe, do me a favor. Yeah. He said, tell your brother I said, you got a big fucking family. And I had to laugh at that, man.
So Cold Chillin Records, looking back, what do you think its place in hip hop history is?
Hall of Fame in New York City. It's legendary and it's the soundtrack to Cold Chillin, and the Juice Crew is the soundtrack to hip hop in the legendary ages. You don't have, if you don't have Shan, if you don't have Biz, if you don't have Big Daddy Kane, if you don't, what is hip hop without that in New York City in the building days? What could I couldn't even imagine when we memorialized B, and I looked into the crowd and I saw Naughty by Nature. I saw Kid Capri. Actually, Kid Capri sat right behind me. He cried harder than me, man. That's my man. Kid Capri, big shouts to you, brother. I miss you, man. And I looked into the crowd and I see my whole soundtrack to my life.
Mhm.
And I was just amazed. I mean, what can you say? It's just an amazing event. Somebody would ask you something like, what's the most amazing thing you've ever seen? The soundtrack to my life sitting right in front of me. That's amazing.
Yeah, the Juice Crew alone, it's amazing the talent they had in that one collective is just
Indeed.
mind blowing.
And I didn't even mention Master Ace or Roxanne Shante and all the DJs, Mr. C and Scoob and Scrap and, the whole crew.
Master Ace is one of my favorite MCs
Yeah,
of all time. He's
Master
so
Ace,
underrated.
he's a workaholic. I saw a show at uh, Apollo. Biz lived at the Apollo. So we see Master Ace comes on stage and, they introduce him. And I'm standing where I usually stand, Biz. I'm standing backstage waiting for Biz to go on. And they introduce Ace. He comes by. He gets on stage and they're playing the music, man. And there's three people on stage dancing. And I'm like, where's Ace? Three people are dancing, and then one of the guys, he dances off the stage. He comes backstage, takes off in the set of clothes and dances back on stage. And he's dancing again, and he did this like three times. And by the time he got all the way down to his last set of clothes, it was Master Ace. He's the hardest working man in all of the Juice Crew. He had to be.
Obviously, like too many MCs, throughout history, they leave too soon. Obviously, your brother left too soon. How was that event for you and for the community around you?
For me, it was a blur of a moment. It happened in a span of a year, but in my mind, I blinked and he was gone. He got sick and COVID was around, and people said he had COVID, and he wasn't sick. And then he was, I don't want to talk about his medical history
That's
because
fine.
my oldest sister, she's a doctor, and she was the one who said, you can't do that. I said, okay. So I respect that. But the last time she got to see him. She's a doctor. She could go and sit with him and converse with his physicians and make the right choice. But the last time I saw him, yeah, I got to FaceTime him and he couldn't talk, but he was awake. And that was good news that he was awake. And I said, yo, B, you playing, stop laying there, man. We got things to do. If I got to push you in a wheelchair, I'll push you. We'll put some rims on it or whatever we got to do to all the places that we played and to all the places that we play. And that was something me and him always said. And he started crying. And his wife, Tara, my sister-in-law, said, "You're making him sad. Uh, we, you can't talk like that." And I know he was trying to tell me something because I could see it and I could hear. You know, I could see his neck and his mouth moving to say something, but He couldn't talk. That was one of the last times I saw him, and it was tremendously sad. I wish something you hold on to. I don't share that story much either, but
So, what do you think his legacy is? You know, to mainstream people, they're going to think just a friend. To people like me, I think of vapors and make the music.
oh yeah.
When it's all said and done,
Hmm.
what is his legacy in hip hop?
More than just a friend, more than music. Uh, Biz did uh, little kids know him. Yo Gabba Gabba. He
Right.
did SpongeBob. He was Kenny the Cat on Nickelodeon. He's done so much more than just music. So one thing I this is all of my brothers are my heroes and my idols because they've all been through something that most people would give up and walk away, but not these guys. So they're my heroes. I can't take anything away from them. From my youngest brother all the way to my oldest. Biz had a drive that if he said it, you either had to listen to him say it over and over, or you just had to wait for him to do it. And his legacy would be an icon to the culture. A bunch of rappers that came around and Biz got to befriend them and I got to meet them. And uh, Kane is an amazing dude. He is the epitome of legendary New York City. Rakim is amazing. You know, I could go down the list. There's a
Right.
whole bunch of guys. KRS-One, Busta Rhymes. You walk New York City streets, and it's like business everywhere, all at once, all at once. He would, he'll call you and say, "I'm in Maryland. I'll see you in a minute." And then somebody will call me 10 minutes later. Now he just called me, said he's in Maryland.
Hmm.
Somebody called me 10 minutes later and said, "Yo, I just saw your brother on 125th Street." Huh? And but he's that guy. He was
Right.
everywhere. He didn't need anybody to be with him. Everybody respected him. I think he had one, he called me one time. I'm not going to say who he was with, but he called me one time and he was like, "You got to come get me. I'm at Club Encore. They just took my jewelry." Him and the guy he was with, it was an R&B singer. They got robbed. So the jewelry's gone and the money's gone. I go get him. We come back to the house and just starts making phone calls. And he says, "You got to take me back to the club." I said, "You know, from Queens to Long Island back to Queens, that's a long ride." He said, "Yeah, but I'm getting my jewelry back." "How you getting your jewelry back?" Or somebody knew the guys who robbed him, caught up to the guys and said, "Yo, you can't rob him. Give him his stuff back." So that's the kind of influence he had on people. Now they lost the money. They didn't get the money, but they got the stuff back. And New York City loved them. Everybody did.
Now, the second half of my interview is a lighter tone. It's just
Sure.
some basic hip hop shop questions.
Okay, cool. Let's
So,
do it.
if you could only listen to one MC for the rest of your life, who would
Wow.
that be?
Hmm. Hard one, man. But KRS-One has so much and he's so innovative. And I would have to say, it would have to be, I'm right there. Man, imagine not listening to Rakim or
Right.
imagine not hearing any more Busta Rhymes. Wow. You should have just asked me, who's your favorite five? um,
Well, that's funny you say that because the next question is if you could only take 5 albums on an island, what 5 albums would you take? Maybe
wow.
this will be easier.
Chronic. Dr. Dre, that was a changing moment in hip hop. Nas, his first album,
Illmatic, yeah.
another dope one. Slick Rick, the Great Adventures album. That we had that album. It was show. If I remember this right, I got that album and Biz had given me that 7 Series BMW. That's in the Just a Friend video, and I played that Slick Rick album everywhere I went, and nobody knew anything about it. People would be like, "Who's that?" because we had it 3 years before it came out. It was done, it was shelved, and then Biz got it and he gave me a copy. So Slick Rick, Nas, Chronic. I'd have to take Biz's first album.
So now I'm gonna name an MC and just tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind. You
Got
can make it as long or short as you want. Eric Sermon.
Oh, that's my man. E we went to school together, man. Summer school, um, Ross, Brentwood High. I love it. His sister, Kim, she's a beautiful soul. His mom, all his people. What do I think about him? He's got to be okay. If hip hop was the NBA, he'd be the most improved rapper. Because when he first came out and we heard him with, It's My Thing, blah, blah,
Mhm.
these songs, he was dope. I mean, him and Parrish fit together. But if I had to listen to one or the other, yeah, I would have probably picked maybe Parrish, not because he was better, but maybe because of his diction, maybe because he was sharper and snappier. I don't know. And then Eric hooks up with Redman, and bang, he's another different animal. He's one of the baddest MCs to do it coming out of New York City. So Eric Sermon, wow, he's got to be the most improved rapper that if if there was such a thing, Eric would be right there. He's dope.
And I think he's one of the best dual threat MCs producers. He's an amazing producer,
No doubt. I didn't
amazing
mention
on
that.
the mic. I mean, he's right up there with the dual threats.
Yeah,
What about
yeah.
Cutmaster Cool V?
Yo, there's nothing that I could say bad about V ever. Only thing I could ever say is one thing V always told me. He said, "Yo, if you tell the truth, you don't have to worry about nothing else." And he's right. And Cool V is one of them dudes who I want to say so much about him, but if I started, I'd never finish. He's the guy who, if I'm in a scrape, he'll come get me. If my he, Biz gave Biz gave me that 7 Series, and I'm driving it right one day, and it's my first car. I blow the water pump out of a 7 Series BMW, and luckily for me, I was in New Jersey at the time, so I make it to Cool V's house, and he's like, "Man, you blew the water pump. Don't worry, I got you." And I'm driving home 2 hours later. Who does that?
Right.
So what can you say to a cat like Cool V? He's the dude who got your back. He's original, man.
What about Big Daddy Kane?
Oh man, Kane is another dude. What can I say about Kane? You, we are my first show, and I'm doing it with Poor Righteous Teachers. Yeah, Poor Righteous Teachers, and Biz is supposed to be there, and Biz, I'm not coming. So I'm there by myself, and when I get there, who's there? Kane, right? And I don't know if he'll remember this because this is man. He stopped me. He said, "Yo, where's your brother?" I said, "He's not coming." He said, "What?" I tell you what, Shell. You nervous? I said, "Hell yeah." He said, "Don't be nervous, man." He said, "I'm your biggest fan. If you feel like you're nervous, I'm sitting right up there. I got that whole box right up there. I'll be the only dude who takes off his t-shirt and I'll be waving it over my head." That's King. And then at Biz's funeral, we carrying the casket out. And Kane says to the dude behind me, "Yo, were you right-handed or you left-handed?" The dude says, "I'm right-handed." Kane said, "I'm left-handed. Switch with me." So now he's behind me,
Mhm.
carrying the casket. So just having him standing behind me made me feel so much better. Then we get to we get to the grave, and we say the words and we put them down. And I see Kane standing with Cool V. So I go over to shake their hands because we rushing out. And Kane said, "Yo, Shell, did Biz ever tell you I wanted to make a record with you? And I said, damn. I said, he never said that, Kane, but I tell you what, I know dudes that pay money just to hear you say that. So I'm good with it. And I got a chance to catch up. As I left him, I got a chance to walk by little Daddy Shane, uh, one of my old friends. He's a cool dude. And then Shane called me, and he said, yo, Kane said we should do Best of Both Worlds together, me and him. Me and Shane have always planned to do something together. We just never got around to doing it. So as we were talking, I said, yeah, I think we should get together, man, and we should do just rhyming with Kane over. The
Yeah,
dun
just
dun
rhyme
dun.
with it.
I
Yeah.
said, Shane, you should do that with me. Me and you should do it. And we'll call it just rhyming with Biz little brother or something. So,
Right.
he loved the idea. So it might be something we get together and do.
What about Ice-T?
Yeah, man, yo. Ice-T is amazing. We were at the funeral and he never met my mother. But at the funeral, they said so many amazing things about my whole family. And, anyway, Ice-T found my mother. She was sitting in the first row, and he walked up to her and said, "Your Biz's mother?" And she said, "Yes." And he bent down on his knee and he thanked her for allowing Biz to be who he was. He kissed her hand. He made her cry. Ice-T is amazing. He's a great dude. That's my guy.
What about Curtis Blow?
I don't really know Curtis because when Curtis was hot, I was a young dude and Biz
Right.
was not popular. But as we got older, I can say this about the old school guys. Like a lot of people would talk so crazy. So we'd go to 125th Street and sit at Sylvia's. And I wish my man Jeff could attest to this. And a lot of these old school guys, man, they were not feeling the 80s. The guys who came from the 70s were not. I guess records change things so much. When you were a rapper and you had to do shows to get money and not make records, and then records came, man, records changed hip hop to a whole new level of things. So we would sit around Sylvia's, and Sylvia was a beautiful soul too, because she fed us good. But a lot of the old school rappers, man, they would always tell Biz what he's doing wrong. And I'm like, yo, dog, what do you mean? How could they tell you? No, there's a few rappers who would always Grandmaster Caz and Grandmaster Flash and these are the guys that I know loved Biz for everything he was or was not. I could go anywhere and Kaz. Matter of fact, Kaz wrote a rhyme for Biz. And one of the baddest rhymes Biz ever said was a thing named Kim. Grandmaster Kaz wrote that. Kaz wrote a rhyme for Biz, right? And of course, this is how Biz do. He looked the rhyme over and then he said, I don't want it. And he threw it away. What? A handwritten Grandmaster Kaz rhyme? I pulled it out of God, right? So I put it in a frame. I got a big frame and I put 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth page is in the middle. But on the fifth page, he signed it. It's a hand, and Kaz writes like calligraphy. He's got a beautiful handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed it and I hung it up on the wall next to Just a Friend album. So Biz comes home and he sees it hanging on the wall. He says, "What's that?" I said, "That's a handwritten Grandmaster Caz rhyme." "That's mine. I want it." So after he throws it in the garbage, of course, he wants it back.
What about Gangstar?
I didn't have the opportunity to meet with him many times. Only we crossed shows, and Biz was good friends with Premier, and Biz ran in so many crazy circles. But Gangstar didn't get a chance to meet, but two of the best producers I think that I ever met was, thanks to B, Pete Rock and Premier. And Biz gave me one year, he gave me a SP 1200, right? The drum machine. I didn't know nothing about it. So I turn it on and I'm going through it. And this is the upper hand that Biz gave me. I'm flipping through the 1200 and I don't know. So I call Biz and I'm like, yo, B, I'm trying to program this 1200 with a simple backbeat. What am I doing wrong? And he'll say, I don't know. Let's call Pete Rock. Next thing you know, I'm on a three-way with Pete Rock and he's explaining to me the intricacies of the SP 1200. And I'm like, what? And it didn't even hit me that this was going on till 5 years later. You know, I'm like, man, I'm the guy who can call Pete Rock and say, how do you, man, I said it before, I'm the luckiest kid, man. You know, I grew up a lucky guy.
What about Cool G Rap?
Oh, gee, funny guy. I mean, he's a GOAT, one of the baddest, and always got a good joke. I mean, what can you say? He legendary New York City street murderer. He's a killer when it comes to the mic. There's nobody, I can't think of nobody, G-Rap, big up.
What about Tretch from Naughty by Nature?
Nah, that's my man. Tretch is a funny dude. I love Tretch, and I got a chance to see him at the funeral. He was sitting there by himself, and you would think that Tretch would have 10 dudes with him, but he's another guy like Biz. New York, Jersey ain't Jersey if Tretch ain't there. Tretch, Redman, Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, that whole crew, amazing. Cool V at one time wanted to join Naughty by Nature and the Juice Crew together. So he was like, I'm like, man, imagine if Cold Chillin had signed Naughty, Queen Latifah, De La Soul, Biz Markie, Big Daddy Kane. Imagine. But it was Cool V who wanted to do it. He brought them all to a place to record, and it didn't happen. Right. You know, and from that, I guess the idea of it soured pretty quick.
Ooh, that would have been amazing.
That's amazing, right?
What about Roxanne Shante?
She loved Biz, and I think losing Biz hit Shante. It hit Shante just as hard as it hit anybody in the room. Shante was there. She's constant. Queen. I can't. You think of the female MCs in that era, and Shante kind of niched out her own way because, of course, there was Salt and Pepper and MC Light, but none of them sounded like Shante. None of them, they were all dope. I mean, I think the best female rapper of that era, maybe MC Light, because she was just dope. But she was not a Shante. She was not. Shante is the beginning of that female B-boy hardcore in my mind, because I can't think of enough. Well, don't let me say that, because there was Pebbly Poo, there was Sha Rock,
yeah,
right. But Shante was the record maker for female MCs, and I love Pebbly. Pebbly is every time I see her, I never really. It's hard for me to recognize that she always looks so different. So when we were at the funeral, I walked right past her, and she grabbed me and she said, "Shell," and I was like, "What the hell are you?" And of course, she pulled her mask down and she's like, and I was like, "Oh, Pebbly. Oh man, I love you. I miss you." And we caught up in 5 minutes, and I'll see her again.
And then we'll end it. We talked about him a little bit, but KRS-One.
I remember hearing the Bridges Over for the first time, and I got mad because these are my people.
Right.
And so I go home, and Bridges already home. I said, "Did you hear that bullshit? Did you hear it?" He said, "Yeah, I heard it. We gotta write something. Get the pens. We writing tonight." He said, "Take it easy. Take it easy." Did you hear what he said about Showtime? I'm not taking it easy. And so he says, listen, did he mention me? No. Did he mention Big Daddy Kane? No. Did he mention Cool V? No. Did he mention TJ Swan? No, he didn't mention none of them. He said, so what are you worried about? And we left it alone. And we got a chance to meet KRS-One probably for the first time, that probably weekend. And they've been famous friends since then. I met Kenny. Kenny Parker me and Kenny we were cool. Kenny's a good dude.
So that's what I got. Want to tell people where they can get at you on social media? Anything you got going on?
Oh well, we just did Showtime. Biz's wife Tara, and she's at Taradice at Instagram. We did Showtime, his story. It's a 3-part series, I think, and we just did the first part, and it's amazing. I mean, you guys got to check that out, man. I have some tidbits and some videos they told me not to share, but man, Showtime ain't my daddy. So I have a bunch of that stuff. I wouldn't share it,
Right.
of course, but a Biz documentary, a 3-part. I think it's a 3-part series, and then after the 3-part series, they're supposed to do. I think they're working on a movie, but I don't know anything about the cast. So, but as for me and myself, I'm writing my own story called Shell and Marcel, and it is a story of me and Biz from the first day I saw him until the last. And it doesn't have in our early days, we didn't have a lot to do with music. The first time as I guess you know, Biz is foster kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the first time I ever saw him, I came home and we had a ranch style house. He's sitting on the stairs going down, and he's sitting there, and I'm only not 8 years old, 9, and I'm looking at my new brother. My mom had said, we're gonna have company for a little while. I need you to be nice to him. And when I saw him, he looked at me, I looked at him, and he did one of these. And I'm 8, and I'm looking around. I didn't even know what that meant, but I remember seeing him, and then I thought, wow, I got my oldest brother was older than me, so Biz is in the middle of us. And I'm thinking I got somebody to throw the ball to who'll throw it back. So I got a lot of brothers and sisters, so everybody's paired up in the age groups. So me and Biz paired up, and we became that combination. That's the first time I ever seen him. And I knew we were gonna have fun, but I didn't know we were going to be I didn't think it was going to be what it was. We had legendary fun. He's maybe 12 years old, right? And he says, my mom bought a dryer. My parents, they bought a dryer. So now the box is there. So Biz says, I'm gonna be a robot. A robot. So he takes the box and he paints like a target symbol on the box. He cuts holes and he sticks his arms out the side, and he puts a pot on his head, and he's a robot. So it's Halloween, and he goes outside, and as soon as the kids on the block saw him, I mean, in the 80s, there was at least 200 kids on the block,
Right.
And they said, "Target," and they started throwing eggs at him.
Oh,
He ducked in the box, right? And I'm too young, man. I jumped behind the bushes, and they must have egged him for like in between 7 to 10 minutes. They just egged him. So after they finished egging him, I look out behind the bush and I go get him, and I'm like, "Yo, they're going. Come on out." He's totaled up in the box. He didn't get hit. So I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "I saw every kid who threw an egg, and I'm beating everybody up." And he did. He chased those kids one by one, And it took him a solid year, but he beat up all them kids.
Well, I appreciate your time. Really
I
means a
appreciate it.
lot.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Big up to hip hop, big up to the
No
whole
doubt.
culture, and thank you for having me, my friend.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.
Shell is a lean, one-man team, rap machine, I'm hard, cold-blooded as ice cream, hot to try, with the rhymes I got like 7-Up. Shell is out to hit the spot, and I'ma wreck the heck out of a rapper's neck with some old perplexed head, so hit the deck or step. It's Shelly D on a rampage, writing rhymes so fly that I could wreck any damn page. I'm dangerous fella, fighting hard like old Yeller. Now 5 words of wisdom, keep away from the shell. I'll stomp the cop and I'ma put him in a headlock, rock him out the spot, then knock him out the box. Then I'ma clean the house like Top Job. Too smooth you move when your neck gets scarred, cause I'm putting many heads on a platter. On my way up the ladder, D squared, and there's no one better than the one-man clan, known for taking a stand, never ran from any man. I'm the baddest on land, and furthermore, Shell, I got rhymes galore by the score. Got more than the average crabs in a whore. Rap oozes out of every pore. Yo, I should own my own rhyme store, so back 'em up, G, G, G. On the mix, which Jay's a bad son of a. He scratched a record so hard you would swear that it itch, which it does cause it was expensive records round. Diamond J, the baddest around, hands down. On the mix, you switch quick from the right to the left. Diamond J, the Grim Reaper, better known as Death. Slaying DJs with the quickness. A million kick the bucket. If you want a battle with Jake, you better say, forget about it. Jay's way too nasty, trustworthy like a bank. Reliable as Lassie, word is born like a storm. Yo, his wrath is felt. His hands get so hot that the wax melt. It's like a play, Jay directs and I'll write the skit. We combine it and come up with some old shucks you out of luck. I'm shooting rhymes so dumb, like a boat on a shore you run amok. Punk is Diamond Shell, aka King Hype, reciting extra crazy, funky, dope rhymes that I write. So back 'em up, G, 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 G. Yo, so back 'em up, G, 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 G. I got 7 MCs at once, how could I work it? I guess I'll have to juggle them just like I'm in a circus. Or maybe I should blow like dynamite and use my mic as a fuse, cause my rhymes will ignite the room hype. Hitting y'all like a cannonball, or doing damage like Jordan with a basketball. A smooth vandal who handles the mic like a pro. I graffiti papers with rhymes, straw shows, then sit back and drink a cold glass of grape juice, cause I don't drink old gold or Miller or Beck's or none of that, because beer tastes nasty and it makes you fat. And I have to stay slim so I can sting like a scorpion. And yo, I have a venomous ink, and I advise you guys to play it wise or die. I'm surprised I'm not arrested for homicide. I'm a long rhyme sayer, microphone slayer on the wheels with the sex appeal. Diamond J is a bad brother, he's a swift motherfucker. I'm not gonna say it, get your minds out the gutter. And I'll run rhymes till your rhymes can't dance. With the brother Diamond Shells on a mad freelance. Cause I'ma milk you like a goat, wear you like a coat, inhale you like a toke, then blow you like smoke. Too smooth you move when your neck gets broke. I'm not trying to brag, but the ragtag sag rhymes drag, and you're a fag that walks with a wag. You're missing something, man, your rhyme need more. You need to take a trip down to Shell's rhyme store. So back 'em up, G, 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 G. Yo, back 'em up, G, 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 G. Yo, to all the 90 competition. The wizard on the microphone, MC Diamond Shell, is just telling y'all all, back 'em up, G. Yo, Biz Markie, telling all, check it out, back 'em up, G. Yo, Ghost let it ride, we gon' slide. So back 'em up.